Then we had the coalition government. The government eventually managed to get their feet through the door of number 10 Downing Street, I think on about the 11th of May. I might be wrong, might have been the 10th, but that was my sort of calculation when I did the slide. What happened next was worthy of comment, and I've commented about this. There's a couple of people in the audience who are sitting there thinking, God almighty, would we've heard it all before. But they published a document, their document for government, which they published on the 19th of May, and this provided a whole raft of information about what they were going to do. Some of it tax orientated, some of it non-tax orientated, some of it, oh, we'll abolish child poverty, we'll make the police force accountable, that sort of stuff. Just a load of sentences. We will do this, we will do the other, we will do that. 36 pages of it, like that. But there were some interesting pointers in there, not least the pointer about capital gains tax. That's why people knew something was on the cards on capital gains tax. We then had the Queen's speech, and then yesterday we had the emergency budget. Not any old budget, but an emergency budget. The emergency budget for emergency times. So that's the background. That's the background. So what happened? What are the key features of the emergency budget? Well, I alluded to the fact, this is where I brag. I make no apologies for claiming the limelight here. I was on my hind legs only last Thursday, talking to a room full of people, not dissimilar to this, about changes under the government. And I thought this is a bit odd, because we don't really know, it's next week. But never mind, I'll give you my best shot. What did I say? VAT will go up to 20%. Was I right? Yes, of course I was. I sort of thought it would happen a bit sooner. So VAT going to 20% from the 4th of January 2011. Why the 4th of January? Because it really pissed people off when they reduced the rate of VAT and then put it back up to 17.5% with effect from the 31st of December 2009. And people, I say people, I mean pubs and nightclubs, did observe that, hold on, isn't that New Year's Eve? How the hell are we supposed to change our tills and all our systems at the stroke of midnight when we're supposed to be singing Auld Lang Syne? We can't possibly do this. This is ludicrous. So reason has surfaced, and the 4th of January is the appointed day. I don't know whether the 4th is a Monday. I haven't bothered to look, but I suspect it might be. But anyway, that's why it's the 4th of January. They can't resist, and I suppose you've got to do this sort of thing, they can't resist introducing what they call anti-forestalling rules. What they think is that, oh my God, we've upped the rate of VAT, the swines will twig that it's going to cost them more, people will stampede in and do things that we think they should be doing on or after the 4th of January, and they'll do them in December. How can we head them off at the pass? And the answer is they have introduced legislation, the thrust of which is basically that if a transaction under certain tests should have taken place under the new rate regime, it will be taxed at the new rate, but, and here's the but, and it's a big but, there will be a 2.5% surcharge on it. So it's not just a question of, okay, we'll put you back where you were, you'll go back to where you should have been with an extra 2.5%. Now, I have made this point many times, and I make no apology for making it again. Why do they go for VAT? And the answer is because it produces huge amounts of money. The money that this rise will generate has been variously estimated at between 12.5 billion and 13.5 billion. I don't know why there is this disagreement with £1 billion at stake, but anyway, that is the amount it will generate. And why does it generate that much? Because it is such a broadly based tax. Simple as that. Broadly based taxes produce the money. Narrowly based taxes, which are introduced for political purposes, don't bring in the money at all. And we'll talk about such taxes a bit more when I come to capital gains tax and inheritance tax. I was intrigued to hear an interview, one of these rather pathetic interviews that takes place on the radio or on the television. It was on the radio, I was driving home, with a member of the public, and the BBC sent their top reporter out to Newcastle upon Tyne to interview a member of the public to ask this lady what she thought about the increase to VAT. And she said, I think it's no canny, which I think she didn't like. I think that's what she meant. I don't like this. I don't like it because it will make everything much more expensive and I won't be able to afford to buy anything anymore. That was her message. And I thought, surely it's not that bad. Surely the whole 12.5 billion isn't coming from you, love. Surely we're spreading it around a bit. And of course, it's sort of ridiculous because it is a tiny, tiny increase when you look at it across the board. And the example I've given times before is that if you imagine the mythical jumper in Marks and Spencer's, which had a price tag of £47 on it, when they reduced the VAT to 15%, that made it £46, i.e. 40 plus VAT at the old rate was 47, and the new rate was 46. At the new rate, the 20% rate, it would be 48. You're talking about relatively small amounts. There are also, of course, the zero rates for the things that everybody in Newcastle upon Tyne can live on, like food and children's clothes. Oh, and books. Books got a mention by George Osborne yesterday. I thought, books, that's a very funny thing to mention. You'd think he'd have sort of said something a bit more useful, like, I don't know, bus travel or train travel, but he went for books. He obviously went to a good school, that chap. Oh, yes, it was Eton, wasn't it? He obviously had books there. Anyway, so that's VAT. What's next? Corporation tax. Well, corporation tax, again, I'm pleased to announce I have predicted this. I was on my hind legs last week saying corporation tax is coming down. Mark my words, small rate to 20%. Boy, am I spot on there. Absolutely on the nail. Small rate of corporation tax down to 20%. Big rate, I said, probably come down to 25%. I only said it because they'd said it in their coalition document. So I wasn't sort of making it up on the hoof. I did have a bit of a pointer towards this. But I was wrong there. It is actually coming down to 24%, and as you can see from the slide, in 1% bites. So year on year, a 1% reduction. That is a good thing. There is unequivocal joy that that has happened. And when we come to the planning points at the end, because I haven't told you yet, when I come to my last 3 slides, you will get some planning points to take away with you. Those planning points will exploit the differential between corporation tax, which is low, and income tax, which is high. So anyway, corporation tax, good. Right, income tax. What do we know? Well, in the coalition document, they said, we want to make a substantial increase to the personal allowance. We want it to get to £10,000, and we're going to make a huge attempt to get there in the first budget. The rest of the 10,000 will be a long-term objective. And I thought, well, it's a bit odd, you know, it's not that far away at the moment. If you're going to make a huge attempt to get there in step 1, surely steps 2, 3, 4 and 5 can't be very hard, but their huge attempt wasn't quite as huge as I thought they would go. £1,000 increase. Now, I suppose a £1,000 increase on £6,435, no, 6,400, yeah, £6,435 is, I don't know, a 15% increase, 16% increase. So I suppose I shouldn't be churlish about it, but you know, all their pre-publicity was indicative that it was going to be rather more substantial than that, but it isn't. And as I said earlier, it's all well and good increasing a personal allowance, but it ain't no use if you don't get it. So anybody in this room who earns more than £100,000, that personal allowance increase is completely meaningless because you do not get it. You don't get a personal allowance. But it's worse than that, because all the people in the room who earn, let's say, £40,000 aren't going to see any benefit from it either, because whilst at the bottom end, you will be able to earn more before you start paying tax, further up the scale, you will start paying higher rate tax sooner than would otherwise have been the case. So the benefit of this increase in personal allowance is being targeted at the low paid, which is what they wanted. I mean, can't be churlish about it. They said, we are going to target at the low paid, and they've done that. But the medium paid, the higher paid, are continuing to bear the brunt. It's no benefit at all.